You're listening to The Talent Sync. The Talent Sync is a collaborative podcast production about anything and everything recruiting and hiring. Literally the kitchen sink on how all things in talent acquisition work together, should work together, and how sometimes they don't. Now it's time to sync up with your hosts, Leah Daniels and Kevin Grossman. Today's episode asks the question, does AI really produce viable recruiting outcomes? Leah and Kevin discuss. Enjoy the podcast. Leah, Happy New Year. How are you doing? Great to see and hear you in the new year. The new year, 2025.
2025. So I had somebody say this to me earlier this week. It was maybe the 13th day of January. And they said to me, it's the 13th week of January already. And I was like, wow. I think you're right.
I know, right? I remember, I think last year, the past couple of years, there's been funny memes and jokes about it's January 41st, or whatever that is.
Yep.
I think, it is funny though. It does feel like we're mid-January. It feels like a lot longer has already passed, but it is only mid-January. So here's the thing. I mean, I hope you had a happy holiday season. I know that we did. We had some fun travels. I think I told you some about that. But since I've been back to work, back in the swing of things, Apple Intelligence had its latest release again. And it's been coming out in little increments. And I know that, critics have been saying, oh, come on, what is it? Is it really doing anything? And I keep trying to learn and use it. And this is true, I think, even with Google, and because Google's Gemini just bounced a new release for anybody who uses Workspace and Gmail. And I'm trying to use it, and I just keep failing. I keep failing to leverage it. And one of the things I was thinking about this morning before we started this episode is that we have a hard time with letting go of the little things. What I mean by that is I think that we as humans, in our everyday minutia of things that we have to do, things that I think make us human, I'll equate this to, and you can challenge me if you want, I'll equate this to, why every time we do any survey of people in recruiting and hiring, for example, about how much percentage of manual administrative tasks do you stay focused on? And it's still really, really high. But we have some pretty amazing technology that's out there today. And we're going to talk about, obviously that's the segue, and then I'll release it to you about actual outcomes with AI in real life and et cetera. But I think that we're defined by these things that we feel like make us human. And I think it's a lot of the little things. That's my argument to you, that I feel like we will continue to struggle with that, even with the more sophisticated technologies that we have. Okay, full stop, your turn.
There's a lot to unpack. So I've not played with Apple Intelligence. So I have not played with that AI. Is that AI? Is it like redundant?
Yeah, AI. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Apple, wants to, exactly. Yes.
Yeah, it's AI. I like it. I've not played with that one. I have been playing with a lot of the other ones, though, with Notebook LM and with Google's new deep learning, as well as just the continued evolution of ChatGPTs. So I fall on all sides. You know this. I'm always a complexity with this sort of, and perplexity while we're at it. With all of these, on one hand, I am staggered by the rate of innovation and how fast these things have gotten better. You really think about the timeline from when a UI called ChatGPT was introduced to the general market 2 years ago, just over. The fact that it is so much better today than it was even, 6 months ago and a year ago is really incredible. Its rate of progression is amazing. And I think it's against what you're talking about. It's against those accuracy things, right? The running joke about that it can't add 2 + 2 to get to 4, right? And those are the things that we use in part, I think, to validate if it's doing a good job or not. But also I think it's in part to validate that we're still relevant as humans in the equation, right? I think we want to make sure that we're still relevant. And what has been cropping up to me in this is that AI has really glommed onto this idea of increasing productivity, right? This is what you and I have started talking about the other day, that we are all hyper focused on how do we get more productive? How do we get faster at doing the thing that we're doing? And, it's interesting because sometimes productivity for the sake of productivity sounds good, right? Like, oh, well, you're not doing that manually anymore. But what happens when you take a step back and you look at that through a different lens? And this is what led me to really spend some time around, if we're all increasing our productivity and there's something on the other side, what does that mean? So here's the recruiting example du jour we all love right now. Candidates are increasing their productivity with AI apply bots. So much increased productivity.
Well, yeah, I know where you're going. Keep going.
But there's a human on the other side. There's a company on the other side. There's a job on the other side. There's still only one. So have we increased productivity to decrease our outcome? Are you any more likely to get the job if you have a bot do 300 applies a day for you than if you were to do 10 applications manually? Have we changed the outcome, or have we just increased our productivity?
I'm going to call this like the New Year AI existential show. I agree with you on that. I think that I would even argue, what kind of productivity is that? So just because I can apply for hundreds of jobs at once doesn't necessarily make me a qualified candidate for any of those jobs per se, right? And it may help me to get more visibility because I think that's what I have to do. But there's really not a lot of, if any, return at all for the candidate or the organizations they're applying to at the end. So I agree with you on that. I think you touched on something else, is like, what is on the other side? So take out the applying part is one thing, but if I'm using the tools, ChatGPT, Bard, Gemini, whatever the case is, to help me improve how I position myself, not applying for jobs, but again, my resume, if I'm still using a cover letter, which I know that there's still room, I think, in the space for that, although that's kind of going away too. But if a way to reposition myself beyond any networking that I know that I should do, which by the way, still is a tried and true thing, which is human more than anything, is to connect and network in order to get potential leverage into an organization. I mean, those things are helpful. But when you said get to the other side, that's what scares us, I think, right now. You're right about how fast this thing has progressed. I remember when I was first using ChatGPT, and it was funny to joke about some of the weird stuff it came up with. But the past few weeks in particular that I've been using it, I mean, I'm not necessarily, and I've got some examples that I just asked it this morning. I haven't verified everything that it's coming up with, but man, it's sure sharp and fast and pretty accurate at the end of the day. Now, I have a rule of thumb that I need to find 3 verifiable sources for things that I find anywhere. I mean, I attempt to do that. This is more true for media and news than anything else. But when I did, so this morning I asked, because I use ChatGPT primarily most of the time. I really haven't experimented with the others lately, but although I might do that with Gemini and Google soon. But I asked it, I literally just said, listen, what are the use of AI in recruiting and hiring? What are some delivered measurable results that have been found for organizations today? And documented results. And so it gave me a list. Now, I haven't verified all of these, and some of these probably are coming from case studies that are slanted for the vendors that are referenced.
100%.
Absolutely. But I mean, everything from Unilever reducing its hiring process from 4 months to 4 weeks, claiming using AI tools, Pymetrics and HireVue, improving candidate quality. Vodafone increased its quality of shortlisted candidates by 45% using AI to match jobs and culture fit, which they probably don't want that out there publicly. But anyway, Intel reported a 2 times increase in diverse applicants in their pipeline after using it. AI. I mean, the list goes on. L'Oreal and a lot of these I'm sure come from case studies, as I again mentioned. But there are things that can help that are scalable and that can help. So not so much about the job application tools.
Time for a talent sync break.
Hey everybody, Kevin Grossman here, president of Talent Board and the Candidate Experience Awards. Our 2023 Candidate Experience Benchmark Research Program will open in January and run through August 31st. To learn more on how your organization can participate, go to thetalentboard.org.
Break time's over. Now back to the talent sink.
I think that these results, though, are getting beyond the scope of our the speed of our own human intelligence, and we're at this tipping point, right? I think that scares us, and it should. It should scare us.
Poke a hole in a couple of those things, right? Because you just gave a bunch of interesting outcomes, and thinking through them, some of those are not AI; they're automation.
Right. And I agree with you on that. Yes. Again, I'm reading what it spit out to me.
Oh, I know. Everything's AI now, even if it's just automating intelligently. That's my new AI. It's automating intelligently. That's an AI too, everybody. Apple Intelligence, automating. So you can't have AI without automation. It's actually in a dependency for AI, but you can have automation without AI. And I do think a lot of the case studies and things that we have seen are somewhat intentionally conflating the two in order to align or glom on to the AI trend. But like, me, I like a good automation story. And automation is something that does reduce your time to hire for sure. Now, the thing that I think is interesting on the outcomes is that what is the definition of an outcome is probably a really important thing. So one of the things you just said is you increase the diversity of the applicant pool, but it doesn't say if they increase the diversity of the hires.
Right. That's a good point.
So then the question becomes, what's your outcome? Is your outcome productivity? Is your outcome a KPI? Or is your outcome an actual outcome? So the thing that got us on this topic, Kevin, I don't know if you remember this, is you and I were chatting and I said, do you remember the original chatbots that existed for marketing and sales? And you could go on a website and the chatbot would be like, hey, you want to buy something? And you were like, no, I just have a question. It's like, no, you want to buy something. Let me talk to a sales rep. And those things have essentially gone away because it couldn't answer or really help the buyer in the buyer journey, right? And I think that that's really where, we conflated AI with outcome, right? The outcome did not help the business sell more widgets, whatever the widget was. And so they stopped using the sales chatbot as a primary tool for the sales process. They went back to the humans. And I think that's where we are going to see some back and forth in the next couple of years where we try to find the stasis point of where AI helps not just productivity, but outcomes versus AI for AI's sake, so we can say that we're using AI and we can get really excited about it, but we don't actually change the outcome of the business, if that makes sense.
Right. Let's take interview scheduling, for example.
Love that automation.
I mean, yeah, very much automation, right? But the reality, and on our own benchmark data from 2024, because we've begun a new Candy benchmark here, but still have some research that's still being finalized to be released from last year. But one of the things that we found on the tech side that is definitely took a big jump was interview scheduling, whether it's embedded in an existing suite or which for the most part, that's mostly what it is now. But the thing is that the outcomes from that are increased efficiency and productivity because there's less of the back and forth between recruiters, candidates, hiring managers. So I think ultimately the outcomes from using interview scheduling tools aren't necessarily still the ultimate hires, but it is one part of the process.
I totally disagree. I think it does. I think there is a very nice line between the outcome of interview scheduling, automating it, because you get people hired faster, which means that you have less time where you have a position unfulfilled that's going to directly tie to revenue. You have less likelihood to lose that candidate, have to start the recruiting process all over again. Your time to fill goes down, which means your recruiter number of open positions sitting on their particular desk goes down. I think there's this great outcome for the business.
But
I like it.
I'm going to counter again because that's solely dependent on the efficacy of the hiring manager ultimately in the end, though, and the recruiter, but primarily more the hiring manager. Because if you could connect all those dots you want. And if I'm somebody like, well, I'd still like to see some more candidates, please, then that outcome is not going to be.
Actually, I have a great story for you. We have a company I've worked with. I adore. They're amazing. Before I got to work with them, they had already set up interview scheduling. They were optimizing their down funnel, so they had this all in play. And we rolled in and went live. And day one, we sent them almost 3 times the applicants they had ever seen in a given day. And I remember the next day when the person I was talking to called me and said, "Turn it off. Cannot do this." I said, why are we turning it off? what's happening? What's wrong? It's what you wanted. You literally said you wanted this. And she said the hiring managers are not managing their calendars. And in one day, they just got booked up in interviews from the automated interview scheduler.
Right. See that? Sure. That was not an anticipated outcome per se. Nobody saw that coming.
But
Yes.
it's an interesting point, right? In that there's, to my original statement, there's somebody on the other side, right? So the hiring managers were not ready for this. The recruiters were like thrilled. They're doing their job better. The hiring managers were crying. And, it became an opportunity to sort of fix the funnel, fix the process, fix the hiring manager problem managing their own calendar. But my point is that there's a person on the other side that's impacted by these outcomes or these productivity gains. And if you're not ready for that, if you're not set up to be successful as a business, the productivity gains will result only in productivity gains, but not better outcomes for the business. And so you will have to think that through.
You do. So I do agree with you that if all things are firing in the right way, the interview scheduling efficiency can definitely help lead to faster hires and potentially. But it still comes back to the human element. And I'll still go back to what I said in the beginning is that I think that, there are things that we have that have technologies that have changed our lives. And you and I have touched on this before. I always like to bring up GPS and the map apps that, Apple Maps that I so wholeheartedly depend on. When we were in our holiday travels, my wife and I pulled out a paper map for this one day tour that we were taking, and I just thought it was funny, so I took a picture and posted it saying old school, because that's the way when we would travel before GPS, we were using road atlases and the maps, and we were pretty good at it too. But I can't even imagine going back to that now. Those were little things that I think grounded me in being human that I did let go of, and I'm happily let go of that. But I do think that the whole point about scheduling those hiring managers filling up their whole day, there's an autonomy in the little things that make us human that we are going to have to learn how to balance. When I think about high volume hiring, for example, and now I know systems like Paradox and others, they can manage with conversational AI. I've seen, I've seen some of the results. I've worked with Paradox, and just to be super clear and transparent about it. But the whole point is that managing the process from pre-application all the way up to the offer. And I'm talking about when you're hiring for McDonald's, for example, or many other in hospitality and restaurant and retail, where that can be automated and managed. And I had a great conversation. Joel Lalji, hopefully saying
do.
His, yeah,
I know Joel.
I had a really good conversation with him. He's actually going to be involved and kind of helping me MC at our ERE conference, the Recruiting Innovation Summit that's coming up. A little plug right now. That's coming up April 29th and 30th in Las Vegas, but off the strip though, thank God. A place called Red Rock Casino. But my point is that I had a great conversation with him, and he asked me the question. He's like, well, what do you think about now? Because now there's actually more, there's AI voice screening that's starting to be.
I know, I've seen it.
Beta more out there in the real world. And I'm like, listen, anything that engages candidates that can help companies, not only the candidate self-select out. If I had because he asked me the question, what if you had an option between waiting to hear back from a recruiter or doing this voice screening, what would you do? And potential bias aside of things that still have to be worked out, I'm like, candidates always want to know sooner or later. So, but I think that what I worry about is that when we get to the later stage, no matter how much that you can automate and how much AI is part of that, is going to be more and more too. Ultimately at the end, I still want as a human to have that final interview decision and that final offer decision, regardless of the role. But I think it's this letting go of things that we're gonna struggle with as humans.
Time for a Talent Sync break.
Hi, Talent Sync listeners. I just wanted to share a bit about JobSync with you all. JobSync helps companies get more quality candidates out of their job board advertising and automates a variety of manual recruitment tasks by solving for the very low conversion rate challenges most companies experience on their career site. JobSync integrates your entire application, including all of your questions, directly into the various job boards' quick apply processes, providing you with fully completed applications directly into your ATS and resulting in 2 to 5 times more candidates while dropping your cost per application by half. This helps return up to 10 hours a week back into your recruiter's time through custom automations that are based on your business-specific recruiting processes. JobSync works with most major ATSs like Workday, SuccessFactors, and Taleo, CRMs, programmatic platforms, and job boards like Indeed and Zip. You can check out jobsync.com to learn more.
Break time's over. Now back to the Talent Sync.
You're not wrong, though. I mean, the data is already there. We've already seen enough organizations try to shift to a touchless hiring process. Not overwhelming data by any stretch, early indication data, but that, yes, you can absolutely 100% do an entire touchless hire. It's 100% possible, but you will have a significant increase in ghosting on day one. So people just don't show up because there is something human about that connection of feeling I said, yes, I put my word, I'm going to show up versus telling an agentic that you're going to come or not come or whatever it might be. But another question though, on your, do you want to talk to an AI or agentic today or a human next week? Pick your poison. What if the third option is, or do this 45-minute assessment? Right?
Right.
Because that's been our crutch, I think, in recruiting to try to figure these things out. We use some fairly lengthy assessments, which from what I can tell, reading all the Reddit posts that I shouldn't be spending my time on, that's not well loved either by candidates, right? They don't like being assessed through these, these fixed tools. And
no,
so,
they don't. No.
Yeah. I don't know if the AI is better.
But something else though about just speaking of assessments, part of that is, and there's old school assessments, DDI, many others, and there's, the newer ones that are, 5, 10, 15-minute assessments that, the Paradoxes have and Higher Views. I think Tradeify was who Paradox had bought. I mean, and again, that have a better user experience for candidates. But I think part of the key, nobody likes to take a 45-minute task and then never hear anything back or just get that automated message. But it's all about context. And I've been talking to, in fact, companies who do still give any kind of assessment like that, especially now that's more coupled with the application stage than even early screening or both, is the context of what it is you're taking, why you're taking it, and to give them something back after they're done. So there's a way to kind of offset that angst and frustration and anger. Anyway, that gets away from the point. So I'm glad. I think that it sounds like we agreed that ultimately at the end of the day is that you can automate, whether it's AI or not, a lot of the process today. And I know this is it sounds like it's been a little cliche, but to free up the time for more of the human interaction with recruiters, hiring managers, and candidates, which I agree with. But what happens then again, when we talk about all the little things that I did before, when I can confidently say it is done with 99.5% accuracy, the fear is what am I going to do? Right?
With all your free time?
I mean, yeah, because again, if I'm still spending 50, 60+% doing the little things that have defined recruitment for me for decades, if I've been in the space for any length of time, what am I going to do? Is that, what's the reality of that? Am I really spending, is all that time really about relationship building? And do we need 10 people? I mean, you know where I'm going with this, right?
Yeah. Oh, no,
what do we do? I
mean, I think there is, like all innovation, a reshuffling of the deck in terms of how many people you need to do a task. Like for example, in farming today in the United States, we need 90% less people than we needed 50 years ago to produce the same amount of food because we've automated so much, right?
Right. Yeah.
And those people did have to go on and find new opportunities. Some of them retired out, as they do. Other ones found new opportunities, left the industry, did do other jobs. Like that is a reality. This is where transferable skills become so important. And actually, I feel like recruiters more than anyone have an advantage in this, right? They already understand how to reposition themselves. And I feel like recruiting, unfortunately, has been well trained over the last 2 decades or so that every time we have any sort of economic slowdown, the recruiters are the first to be reduced. And some portion of them have went on and found new careers and doing other things. Like we as a group have had to do that. And I think that is, part of the evolution. I think there's one other piece before we wrap up that is worth mentioning, which is in all of this, what I worry about, besides what you just mentioned, is the predatory behavior that comes in to take advantage of some of these things. So I think that we end up seeing companies try to take advantage of the chaos that this is all creating, all the AI opportunities, bringing things that aren't real to market. I was reading an article the other day, The Lying Liars Who Lie, and I just giggled a lot about how many things have come to market that are predatory. So the example, I was talking to someone the other day, they told me that they were talking to one of these AI bot apply systems who said to them, we want to be a job board and an AI apply system, and we want to sell our candidate data when they apply to jobs to you, and we want you to pay us the same rate you would pay a job board that's generating human like a human whose fingers on the keyboard applications. But obviously we're going to send you 300 or 400 applications per candidate instead of 10 or 20. And on top of that, the candidate is going to be able to decide how closely matched to the jobs that they're applying for they are going to be. So they could be 10% or 20% match, or they could be 90, and you won't know because the candidate gets to decide that. And I just sat there as this person was telling me this story and went, wow, that is so bad.
It is bad. That's bad.
So bad. And
it's not helpful. It's not helpful to either party. It's not helpful to the candidate ultimately or the employer for that matter. So
it's a predator in the middle. And like, that's a thing that I'm thinking about right now, is that for them, the outcome is obviously cash money, right? That's what they're after. And so maybe AI is a great outcome for them. But for everyone else involved, like, we have to start really thinking about these systems that we're using. Are they increasing productivity but not increasing outcomes? Are they even potentially predatory in the middle of all of this? Because everybody is feeling this pressure to adopt these new tools that will allow them to accomplish X, Y, or Z faster. And what happens to the human on the other side? What happens to the people who are impacted by your increases in productivity of sorts? I have no answers for these, by the way.
I think we kind of then are ending where we started, actually, in a way. I think that I hope, but I believe, I think humanity will persevere. We will figure out how to adapt. I mean, again, to your point about farming and you just go back to the turn of in the beginning of the 20th century, where so many people were displaced from agrarian, cultures, because the automation was starting then in regards to lonely farming. And then we had automobiles, and then, the horse and buggy thing went away. And the disruption is always going to happen, and we'll adapt and evolve. I don't know. This one just feels different. And by the way, what you were just talking about, it sounds very reminiscent of still allowing cable companies to throttle bandwidth for whatever.
Right?
Yeah. And allowing them to.
Or when you get charged for text messages that were incoming.
Exactly. Yeah. or that too. Or, this could be another show for another time as we wrap up too, which is, and it's not, I don't know how much AI is involved in this, but just the payroll platforms that make gig workers pay for them to get paid, which maybe should be another show that we tackle at some point, and that and related things, because that's nuts and nonsense, but it's exactly what happens today out there for individuals. Having limited to no choice, that if I'm going to get paid, I have to use this platform that's going to charge me a service fee,
which is a percentage of what I'm going to get paid.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, listen, Leah, on that note, what a great discussion. Always love having our chats. Hopefully everybody keep yourself talent synced out there and download our podcast and listen in and give us a shout out if you get a sec. And until the next time, Leah, we will meet again soon.
Sounds good. Nice to chat with you all.
Thank you for listening to the Talent Sync podcast, a Candy Benchmark research program and Job Sync collaboration. More episodes soon. Subscribe via your favorite podcast player today.